Ravens fan, hold on tight because this bomb might be about to drop. Mark Andrews has been one of the team's most important players in recent years, but his future in Baltimore could be at risk. The front office has a tough decision to make, and believe me, this could completely change the course of the offense next season. Has the time come to move on from Lamar Jackson's top target, or will the Ravens find a way to keep one of their biggest leaders on the roster? This choice isn't simple. It involves money, the team's performance, and even the chemistry in the locker room. And the worst part, one wrong move could be costly in the Ravens' Super Bowl chase. Things are heating up behind the scene, and the next few weeks will be crucial in deciding Andrews' fate. So stay with me until the end, because I'm going to break down everything at stake in this decision that could shake up Baltimore. Go Raven! This is one of those losses that stays in your memory for a long time. Mark Andrews, one of the most respected players on the team, had a game to forget against the Bills. A fumble and 2 crucial drops, including a 2-point conversion that could have tied the game, ended up defining the Ravens' playoff elimination. It was one of those nights where everything that could go wrong actually did. And the worst part, it happened to a player who has always been considered one of Lamar Jackson's most reliable weapons. The frustration is understandable, but this isn't just about one bad game. Andrews had solid moments this season, scoring 11 touchdowns, but the truth is his production hasn't been the same as in past years. In 2021, he led the team in receptions and finished with 1,361 yards, but since then, his impact has been declining, with only 673 yards over 17 games. It's clear the Ravens' offense no longer revolves around him as it once did. This raises the question, is it still worth investing so much money in him, or is it time to think about the future at the tight end position? And here's where things get even more complicated. Andrews isn't just an important player on the field. He's also a major leader in the locker room. He's respected by his teammates, loved by fans, and has a strong relationship with the coaching staff. Moving on from a player like him isn't an easy decision, but at the same time, the NFL is a business, and tough choices are part of the game. If his contract was already a concern for the front office, now the playoff elimination has added an emotional weight to the equation, making the situation even more delicate. What happens next depends on how the franchise sees its future. Andrews could still play a key role, but the Ravens must decide if the cost is worth it. And to make things even trickier, John Harbaugh has already made it clear that he fully trusts Andrews and expects him to be part of the team next season. But is the coach's support enough to secure his place? Financial factors always play a role in these decisions, and Mark Andrews is no exception. He still has 1 year left on his contract with the Ravens and is set to count $17 million against the team's salary cap in 2025. That's a hefty price for a tight end, but the concern grows when you consider that Baltimore needs cap space to strengthen other areas of the roster. If the Ravens decide to cut him, they'd still be left with $6 million in dead money, but they'd free up a significant amount to invest in other positions. And it's not just about creating cap space. The Ravens' offense has evolved and no longer depends on Andrews the way it once did. With the arrival of Zay Flowers and other reliable targets, the team might feel that the money spent on Andrews could be better used on a top-tier wide receiver or even reinforcements for the offensive line. The NFL is a league of constant adjustment, and even talented players can become too expensive when the offensive system shifts. The tricky part is that, despite his high price tag, Andrews is still one of the league's best tight ends when healthy. His stats may not be as eye-catching as they were in 2021, but he remains a trusted target for Lamar Jackson. Plus, the chemistry between them can't be overlooked. Losing Andrews would mean disrupting a connection that's been built over the years, and that's not always easy to replace. The risk of moving on from him and later regretting it is something the front office must carefully weigh. The Ravens need to approach this decision strategically. If they keep Andrews, they'll need to make sure he's fully integrated into the offense in a way that justifies his salary. If they let him go, they must have a clear plan to replace his production and leadership. And with the offseason approaching, the pressure to make a decision is only growing. Even after his rough playoff game, Mark Andrews still has the full support of head coach John Harbaugh. As soon as the season ended, Harbaugh made a point to praise the tight end, saying he remains a cornerstone of the team and that he fully trusts his ability to bounce back. For a player who faced heavy criticism after the loss to the Bills, this public backing makes a huge difference. But the real question is, will that be enough to keep him on the team? The Ravens locker room has always had immense respect for Andrews. He's not just a skilled player, but also a a leader within the team. His presence is crucial to the group, and losing someone like him could have effects that go beyond the field. Cutting a player of his stature could create dissatisfaction within the roster, something no franchise wants to deal with during a period of transition. The front office knows that any decision involving Andrews must be handled carefully to avoid internal turmoil. On the other hand, the NFL is a business driven by performance, and at the end of the day, players understand that no one is untouchable. If the Ravens choose to move in another direction, the team will need to adapt quickly and find new leaders within the squad. The franchise has already undergone major changes in recent years, and while losing Andrews would be painful, it wouldn't be shocking. The league is full of tough financial decisions, and even fan-favorite players have been forced to find new teams when the numbers didn't work in their favor. No matter what the final decision is, one thing is certain: Mark Andrews still has the respect of his teammates and his coach. But the problem is, in the NFL, respect doesn't always guarantee job security. If the Ravens ultimately decide to part ways, the biggest question will be how the team responds to such a major change. All right, we're past the halfway mark of the video, but I just noticed you haven't hit the like button yet. That's really important for YouTube to keep recommending my content to you, so I can continue bringing you the latest Ravens updates. So go ahead, hit that like button. It's free. All right, let's keep going. If Baltimore decides to part ways with Andrews, the big question will be who would step into his place. The Ravens have always valued the tight end position, and even without him, the team still has young talents like Isaiah Likely. Likely has shown impressive flashes when given the opportunity to start, especially toward the end of the season. While he may not have Andrews' experience, he has the potential to grow within the offensive system and become an important piece of the offense. In addition to Likely, the Ravens may also look for reinforcements in the market. Free agency always brings interesting options, and the draft could also be a viable alternative. Depending on what the front office decides, Baltimore could opt for a cheaper tight end to complement the roster, or even change the offensive structure, making the passing game more focused on wide receivers. Regardless, any movement at this position needs to be well planned to avoid a setback in the team's offensive development. The challenge is finding a balance between cost and production. Andrews is one of the highest paid tight ends in the league, and if the Ravens believe Likely can take on the role without a significant drop in performance, the change could make sense. But if there are doubts about Likely's ability to handle that responsibility, keeping Andrews might be the better option, even with the financial impact. These are tough decisions because it's not just about money. It's also about chemistry within the team and Lamar Jackson's trust in his targets. Everything points to the Ravens evaluating all possibilities before making a final decision. They could try to renegotiate Andrews' contract, bet on Likely as a starter, or even seek reinforcements in the market. But no matter which path they choose, one thing is certain: how Baltimore handles the situation could directly impact the offense's performance next season. The Mark Andrews situation is one of the most important offseason issues for the Ravens. The franchise needs to decide whether it is still worth keeping a talented but expensive tight end, or if it's time to free up space in the budget and invest in other areas of the roster. This is not a simple choice because it involves not only the financial impact, but also the offensive structure and the relationship within the locker room. If the Ravens choose to move forward without Andrews, they will need to justify the decision to fans and players, as he is one of the most beloved players on the team. The risk is high because any replacement will have to make up for not only his production, but also his presence as a leader in the group. On the other hand, if Baltimore decides to keep him, they will need to find ways to optimize his use within the offensive system to ensure his salary is well invested. Looking at the franchise's history, the Ravens tend to make pragmatic decisions when it comes to high contracts. They have not hesitated to part ways with important players in the past when they felt it was best for the team in the long term. With Andrews, the logic may be the same. If the cost-benefit ratio is not favorable, the front office can make a tough decision, even if it's unpopular. Now, it all depends on what Baltimore sees as the best strategy for the future. The decision may not be simple, but one thing is certain: the outcome of the situation will directly impact the team's plans for the next season. And whatever path is chosen, the fans already know that this offseason promises to be eventful. Mark Andrews' situation is far from simple. On one hand, he has been one of the most important players in the Ravens' offense in recent years, a reliable target for Lamar Jackson, and a key figure in the locker room. On the other hand, his high salary and the need to adjust the salary cap put the front office in a tough spot. The pressure increased after the playoff elimination, and now the Ravens need to decide whether to continue with Andrews or make a bold move to reshape the offense. What do you think the Ravens should do? Keep Andrews and find another way to balance the budget, or move on and invest in a new target for Lamar Jackson? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the bell to stay updated on all things Ravens.